Section 1 English Test Directions. In the 5 passages that follow, certain words and phrases are underlined and numbered. In the right-hand column, you will find alternatives for the underlined part. In most cases, you are to choose the one that best expresses the idea, makes the statement appropriate for standard written English, or is worded most consistently with the style and tone of the passage as a whole. If you think the original version is best, choose No Change. In some cases, you will find in the right-hand column a question about the underlined part. You are to choose the best answer to the question. You will also find questions about a section of the passage or about the passage as a whole. These questions do not refer to an underlined portion of the passage, but rather identified by a number or numbers in a box. For each question, choose the alternative you consider best and fill in the corresponding oval in your answer document. Read each passage through once before you begin to answer the questions that accompany it. For many of the questions, you must read several sentences beyond the question to determine the answer. Be sure that you have read far enough ahead each time you choose an alternative. Passage 1. Notes from the Underground. A lot of people hate to ride the New York City subways, but I love them because I like to get places fast. A musician balancing a cello case, 2 Buddhist monks in saffron robes, and a group of stockbrokers in crisp charcoal gray suits get on at Wall Street. A passenger placidly sews while the subway train flings and jolts. A teenager who's holding a shoebox containing a kitten as tiny as a ginger snap smiles even if a line of girls in frilly white communion dresses file by. About 3.5 million people a day ride the subways. I think maybe I might possibly have met them all. Sometimes a Salvation Army volunteer boards the subway train with sandwiches and juice to give to the needy. Put your pride to the side, the volunteer shouts, and I've seen many people put out their hands. The speaker also raises money. It's impossible to predict which people will dig into their pockets or if they were to open their purses, and I've stopped trying to guess. Last week, some fellow passengers and I watched an elderly man with a portable chessboard playing chess against himself. Just yesterday, I sat across the aisle with a woman who was composing music in pink-tinted glasses. In a notebook, she tapped her foot as she reviewed what she'd written and then stopped, tapping and jotted more notes as the train hurtled along. Today is my mother's birthday. I decided to surprise her with lilac blooms from my backyard. So this morning, carrying a shopping bag full of flowers, I boarded a crowded E-train and rode it to the very last stop in the Bronx. Stranger smiled and took pains not to crush the flowers, even when the train jerked to a halt. I got off at an elevated station, and lifting the splendid bouquet, rushed down to my mother, feeling delighted that I'd brought the blooms all the way from Brooklyn on the subway train. Question 1. At this point, the writer wants to provide one reason why she likes to ride the subways. Which choice is most relevant to the information provided in the first paragraph? A. No change. B. I never know what I'll see there. C. They are so much cheaper than taxis. Or D. They are places of enormous quiet and calm. Question 2. F. No change. G. Charcoal gray suits, comma. H. Charcoal, comma, gray suits. Or J. Charcoal gray, comma, suits. Number 3. A. No change. B. That's. C. As. Or D. Whose. Number 4. F. No change. G. As. H. Whereas. Or J. Such that. Number 5. A. No change. B. Subways, comma, and. C. Subways, comma, which. Or D. Subways actually. Number 6. F. No change. G. Perhaps I've. H. I've possibly. Or J. I've. Number 7. A. No change. B. Therefore, comma, the. C. In conclusion, comma, the. Or D. In other words, comma, the. Number 8. F. No change. G. It's. H. It's. Or J. That's. Number 9. A. No change. B. Would have opened. C. Open. D. Might be opening. Number 10. Which of the following alternatives to the underlined portion would not be acceptable? F. Who played. G. As he played. H. Played. Or J. Who was playing. Number 11. A. No change. B. To. C. At. Or D. From. Number 12. The best placement for the underlined portion would be F. Where it is now. G. After the word woman. H. After the word was. Or J. After the word composing. Number 13. Which choice most effectively emphasizes the rapid speed of the train? A. No change. B. Continued on its way. C. Moved on down the tracks. Or D. Proceeded towards the next stop. Number 14. If the writer were to delete the preceding sentence, this paragraph would primarily lose a statement that F. Provides physical descriptions of people on the subway train. G. Supports the opening sentence of the essay. H. Provides evidence that people can be friendly on the subway train. Or J. Gives an explanation for the narrator's actions. Question 15 asks about the preceding passage as a whole. Number 15. Suppose the writer had intended to write a brief essay persuading readers that the subway system is New York City's most economical means of the public transportation. Would this essay fulfill the writer's goal? A. Yes, because the essay supplies evidence of the large number of people using the subways. B. Yes, because the essay describes the people who are able to give to the needy because they have extra money in their pockets. C. No, because the essay focuses on the kinds of people riding the subways, not on how inexpensive the subways are to ride. Or D. No, because the essay focuses on the writer's love of all public transportation, not just subways. Passage 2. Navajo Code Talkers. During World War II, a group of Navajo soldiers developed a code that became one of the most successful in U.S. military history. This group, known as the Navajo Code Talkers, took part in every assault the U.S. Marines conducted in the Pacific from 1942 to 1945, transmitting information on tactics, troop movements, orders, and other vital communications over telephones and radios. American military officials have been using cumbersome machines to encode and relay information during battles and preliminary tests under simulated combat conditions. The Navajo encoded, transmitted, and decoded a 3-line message in 20 seconds as the machines required 30 minutes to perform the same job. Nevertheless, these tests convinced the officials of the value of using the Navajo language in a code. The Navajo language is complex, with structure and sounds that makes them unintelligible to anyone without extensive exposure to it. Outside Navajo communities, such exposure is rare, which greatly contributed to its success. The Navajo developed and memorized the code. Since their language did not have words for common U.S. military equipment, they turned to nature. They named planes after birds and ships after fish. Dive bombers became guinea, chicken hawk, and destroyers were called kalo, shark. The skilled Japanese code breakers remained baffled by the Navajo language. The code was never broken. Unfortunately, the code talkers sometimes faced dangerous peril from their own side. Many code talkers needed bodyguards to protect them from other American soldiers, some of whom mistook the Navajo for Japanese. Soldiers, regardless, the Navajo were resolute and served their country courageously. The Navajo code remained classified after the war. That was later used along with codes made from other American Indian languages. In the Korean conflict and the Vietnam War, now that the Navajo code is no longer used, the code talkers whose secret work saved American lives can finally receive public recognition for their actions. Number 16. F. No change. G. Group which was. H. Group was. Or J. Group. Number 17. A. No change. B. Transmitting information on. C. Transmitting information on. or D, transmitting information on. Number 18, F, no change, G, had, H, would have, or J, will have. Number 19, A, no change, B, thorny, C, strenuous, or D, gawky. Number 20, F, no change, G, second so, H, seconds, or J, seconds whereas. Number 21, A, no change, B, similarly these, C, still these, or D, these. Number 22, F, no change, G, officials of the value, H, officials of the value, or J, officials of the value. Number 23, A, no change, B, makes it, C, make it, or D, make them. Number 24, F, no change, G, from, H, with, or J, of. Number 25, which of the following alternatives to the underlined portion would not be acceptable? A, rare this, B, rare this, C, rare this, or D, rare a factor that. Number 26, F, no change, G, that, H, that's, or J, the Navajo codes. Number 27, A, no change, B, the Navajo who were various heights and weights, C, being of various heights and weights the Navajo, or D, the Navajo of different sizes. Number 28, F, no change, G, hazardous, H, risky, or J, omit the underlined portion. Number 29, A, no change, B, and which, C, and, or D, omit the underlined portion. Number 30, F, no change, G, hush-hush actions, H, concealed hidden efforts, or J, doings kept under wraps. Passage 3, An American Griot. When storyteller Mary Carter Smith practices her art, and everybody listens, wearing a brightly colored African dress, a large turban, and bracelets, 78-year-old Smith seems to inhabit each of the different characters she describes. Her voice changes with each emotion she wants to evoke. Her gestures fit the pace of the narrative, and though many of the stories are intended to make the audience laugh, Smith is fully aware of the other values of storytelling. Indeed, she identifies strongly with the griots of West Africa, those village storytellers where they use songs, poems, and narration to help preserve and transmit culture and history. Clearly, others recognize her as a valuable resource. Smith is the official griot of both the city of Baltimore and the state of Maryland. She has served as griot in residence at several universities. Though Smith has been interested in theater since her youth, her recognition of her own talent grew gradually. She worked for 30 years as a teacher and librarian in the field of education in Baltimore public schools. She organized theater groups in her community and took several trips to Africa to study traditional cultures. All along, she was telling stories, everything from social satire to her retelling of Cinderella as Cindy Ellie, a poor African-American girl whose rags were transformed into magnificent African-style gowns. Over time, she was invited to perform in churches, libraries, and museums. Smith realized the extent of her gift when her friend Alex Haley, who had gathered essential material critical to writing his best-selling novel Roots, from a griot in Gambia, referring to her as my American griot, this was a revelation to Smith. Hearing that was like a man who has shoed horses all his life being told, "You're a blacksmith," she recalls. Today, Smith's repertoire is so vast that she could speak consecutively for 12 hours straight without running out of material. It's unlikely she would ever attempt such a feat, but if she did, there would be no dull moments. Number 31. A, no change. B. Smith practices her art. C. Smith practices her art. Or D. Smith practices her art. Number 32. F. No change. G. Well. H. However. J. At once. Number 33. A. No change. B. Who. C. Whom. D. That they. Number 34. Which of the following alternatives to the underlined portion would not be acceptable? F. Marilyn she. G. Marilyn and she. H. Marilyn and. Or J. Marilyn she. Number 35. The writer is considering deleting the phrase at several universities from sentence 8. If the phrase were deleted, the essay would primarily lose A. An essential link to the paragraph that follows. B. A contrast for the purpose of making comparison. C. Information that qualifies the term griot residence. Or D. An unnecessary detail. Number 36. Which of the following words or phrases from the preceding sentence is least necessary and could therefore be deleted? F. 30. G. And librarian. H. In the field of education. Or J. Baltimore Public. Number 37. A. No change. B. Ellie A. C. Ellie A. Or D. Ellie, she was A. Number 38. At this point, the writer is considering adding the following true statement. In high school, Smith was a member of both drama and speech clubs. Should the writer make this addition here? F. Yes, because it supports the idea that Smith was telling stories throughout her life. G. Yes, because it supports the idea expressed earlier that Smith organized theater groups in her community. H. No, because it contradicts the point made earlier that Smith worked for 30 years as a teacher and librarian. Or J. No, because it distracts the reader from the main focus of the paragraph and does not logically fit at this point in the essay. Number 39. A. No change. B. Friend Alex Haley. C. Friend Alex Haley. Or D. Friend Alex Haley. Number 40. F. No change. G. For. H. Important to. J. That was essential to. Number 41. A. No change. B. Griot that. C. Griot this. Or D. Griot. Number 42. Given that all the choices are quotations from Mary Carter Smith, which one would best support the argument the writer is making concerning Smith's belated discovery of her own talent? F. No change. G. You've got to reveal truths to your listener, she says. H. Through his novel roots, Alex Haley was in some ways performing the function of a griot for America, she says. Or J. I'd say that one of the most crucial moments in my development as a storyteller is the few hours I once spent listening to a griot in West Africa, she recalls. Number 43. A. No change. B. Continuously nonstop. C. Perpetually. Or D. Omit the underlined portion. Number 44. F. No change. G. It's unlikely. H. It's unlikely. Or J. It's unlikely. Question 45 asks about the preceding passage as a whole. Number 45. Suppose the writer had intended to write a brief essay focusing on various ways that storytelling influences community values. Will this essay successfully fulfill the writer's goal? A. Yes, because the essay indicates that Smith believes storytelling pulls the community together. B. Yes, because the essay shows Smith's Baltimore community valued her gift as a storyteller. C. No, because the essay focuses on the griots of West Africa, not on community values. Or D. No, because the essay's main focus is on the storyteller and the way in which she practices her art. Passage 4. Baseballs and Butterflies. Our son has started playing organized t-ball, a beginner's version of baseball. Organized is what parents call it anyway. Joe is 7, living in those 2 or 3 years, and they can manage to throw a baseball a few feet, but what they're really interested in are things closer at hand: bugs, butterflies, dirt. if they're in the infield, grass if they're in the outfield. Children of that age still think nothing of doing little dances in the outfield, often with their backs to home plate and consequently the batter. It's not as if the outfielders' positions matter much, though. The ball never gets hit hard enough to reach there. Since there's not much chance that a 7-year-old just learning the game can hit a pitched baseball, the umpire puts the ball on top of a stationary tee, a piece of flexible tubing adjusted to each batter's height. If batters repeatedly fail to hit the ball, and lots of them do, the umpire is patient, giving them 4 or 5 chances instead of the usual 3. When a batter finally makes contact, the ball dribbles into the infield where the nearest player usually ends up throwing the ball at first baseman's feet, or if the fielder is precocious, over the first baseman's head. In a T-ball league, one needs to do something to keep the score from reaching triple digits in the early going. There's a rule, therefore, that says the runner must stop when any fielder from the other team picks up the ball and holds it aloft. The rule might seem a good one, but the children can't remember to hold up the ball. Once they picked it up, they look at it quizzically for a while, then look up to see what all the ruckus is about. What it's about, a bleacher section full of parents, each adult frantically holding up a stiff arm. The child with the ball wonders at the grown-up's odd, noisy behavior. Meanwhile, the runners continue to score. They scored, that is, if they were not to be distracted by the grown-ups or the butterflies. Number 46. F, no change. G, children. H, he, or J, some of them. Number 47. A, no change. B, hand, bugs, butterflies, dirt. C, hand, bugs, butterflies, dirt. Or D, hand, bugs, butterflies, dirt. Number 48. F, no change. G, if. H, whether. Or J, as to whether. Number 49. The writer wishes to add the following sentence in order to emphasize the uncertainty already expressed about an idea in the paragraph. I still have doubts. The new sentence would best amplify and be placed after sentence A, 1, B, 2, C, 3, or D, 4. Number 50. F, no change. G, while. H, although. Or J, unless. Number 51. Which of the following alternatives to the underlined portion would not be acceptable? A, umpire patiently gives. B, umpire who is patient gives. C, umpire who patiently gives. Or D, patient umpire gives. Number 52. If the writer were to delete the word repeatedly in the phrase, and lots of them do, and the dashes from the preceding sentence, the sentence would primarily lose F, a tone of admiration for the work of the umpires. G, details about the rules of T-ball. H, an explanation of why children often fail to hit the ball. Or J, a sense of how difficult the task is for the children. Number 53. A, no change. B, accomplishes a result of. C, attains the consequence of. Or D, results in. Number 54. F, no change. G, instead. H, likewise. Or J, meanwhile. Number 55. A, no change. B, regulation size ball. C, ball, which is regulation size. Or D, ball, which is the same size as regular baseball. Number 56. F, no change. G, then look up to see. H, then look up to see. Or J, then look up to see. Number 57. A, no change. B, that's. C, it's. Or D, that's. Number 58. F, no change. G, grown-ups. H, grown-ups. Or J, grown-ups. Number 59. A, no change. B, they would not have been. C, they're not. Or D, they're not to be. Question 60 asks about the preceding passage as a whole. 60. Suppose a writer had intended to write an essay describing one child's experience playing t-ball. Would this essay accomplish the writer's goal? Yes, because it reveals that the narrator's son Joe is now playing t-ball, and then it goes on to describe Joe's experience at one of his games. G, yes, because it discusses the narrator's son Joe's t-ball skills, such as the fact that he can throw a baseball a few feet. H, no, because while it mentions that the narrator's son Joe plays t-ball, it also notes he is more interested in things such as dirt and bugs. Or J, no, because although the t-ball experience of the narrator's son Joe are alluded to, is primarily about the general features of t-ball games. Passage 5. Fixing raptor feathers. Raptors, or birds of prey, cannot afford to be grounded for weeks waiting for a large number of flight feathers to regrow. They must be able to fly if they are to hunt and eat. Raptors, including eagles and hawks, therefore normally shed their feathers slowly, one or two at a time. The premature loss of a flight feather to injury, then, is not an incidental matter to raptors, most of which are diurnal. If a feather breaks off on the stub of its hollow quill shaft still in place, the bird's body mistakenly believes the feather is whole. Only when the quill socket containing the stub is empty will the new feather grow. Quills are hollow, so the removal of a quill stub before it is ready to be naturally shed would be very painful to the animal. Bird rehabilitators therefore treat broken raptor feathers through imping, the implanting of new feather into the quill stub. The bird's rehabilitator begins by determining which feather has been damaged on each wing. All flighted birds having 10 primary flight feathers, each one shaped slightly different. If the left number 7 feather is broken off, the rehabilitator selects the number 7 feather from a collection kept exclusively for imping. If necessary, a number 6 or 8 feather can be carefully trimmed with small scissors to the shape of a number 7 feather. The quill of this replacement feather is trimmed so that when the replacement feather is eventually attached to the quill stub, still in the bird's body, the repaired feather will be equal in length to the original whole feather. Next, the rehabilitator whittles a bamboo chopstick to duplicate the curve and slant of the complete feather shaft. Here she then inserts the carved chopstick into the quill stub. After sliding the shaft of the replacement feather over the sturdy light bamboo stick, glue just touch it applied, the raptor now has a rebuilt functional feather. Eventually it will be shed, allowing a new complete feather to grow in its place. Number 61. The writer wants to describe the way raptors shed feathers. Which choice would be most consistent with the way the feather shedding process has been described up to this point? A. No change. B. In an all-at-once blizzard. C. Often losing them in clumps. Or D. Leaving them flightless for long periods of time. Number 62. F. No change. G. Raptors. H. Raptors, most of which are mainly active during the day, that is, diurnal. Or J. Raptors, daytime hunting creatures for the most part. Number 63. Which of the following alternatives to the underlined portion would not be acceptable? A. Sound. B. Complete. C. Total. Or D. Intact. Number 64. Given that all the choices are true, which one most clearly provides a reason for the statement that follows in this sentence? F. No change. G. Fasten deeply. H. Break occasionally. Or J. Are very light. Number 65. A. No change. B. They are. C. Those are. Or D. That is. Number 66. Which of the following alternatives to the underlined portion would not be acceptable? F. Imping which is the. G. Imping the. H. Imping the. Or J. Imping the. Number 67. A. No change. B. Birds by having. C. Birds which have. Or D. Birds have. Number 68. F. No change. G. Slight differently. H. Slightly differently. Or J. Slightly more different. Number 69. The writer is considering revising the preceding sentence to read as follows. If necessary, a number 6 or 8 feather can be cut into the shape of a number 7 feather. If the writer did this, the sentence would primarily lose a sense of how A. limited the rehabilitator's feather collections are, B. delicate the word being described is, C. different each of a bird's flight feathers is, or D. easy it is to replace a number 7 feather. Number 70, F. no change, G. be equally long, H. equal the length, or J. equal in length. Number 71, A. no change, B. however, C. indeed, D. finally. Number 72, F. no change, G. a touch of glue is applied to the rehabilitator, H. the application of a touch of glue follows, or J. the rehabilitator applies a touch of glue. Number 73, which of the following alternatives to the underlined portion would not be acceptable? A. feather eventually it, B. feather eventually it, C. feather which eventually, or D. feather that eventually. Number 74, F. no change, G. grow in its, H. have grown in its, or J. have grown in its. Number 75, at this point the writer is considering adding the following true statement. This imping procedure is just one of the many responsibilities bird rehabilitators have. Should the writer make this addition here? A. Yes, because it reveals the relative importance of imping compared to the other work of bird rehabilitators. B. Yes, because it reinforces the idea that imping is of great benefit to raptors. C. No, because it goes beyond the scope of the essay, which focuses on how the feathers of certain types of birds are repaired. Or D. No, because it undermines the essay's earlier claim that imping is the most important work the bird rehabilitators do. End of Test 1. Stop. Do not turn the page until told to do so.